Okay, so this is my first intervention. This is problem solving Jenga. So each Jenga piece has a question written on it, and then whenever a patient has to pull one out, they have to read the question and answer it to me. Okay, so can my patient go ahead and pull one out for me, please? Okay, and what does your question say?
Scrambled, fried, or omelet?
And that's referring to eggs. So what would you rather have out of those three?
Scrambled.
Scrambled eggs, okay, sounds good. So the skills used with this intervention, as you can see, she had to reach, she had to target, she had to problem solve, she had to use her hands at midline, she had to use figure ground perception, depth perception, hand manipulation because she's using both hands, pattern recognition because I would have the patient actually, I pre-assembled this, but I would have the patient go ahead and put it all together, stack them up, that way they have more usage with their hands. They have to use eye-hand coordination and visual scanning and praxis. Okay, so some ways that I would grade this up and down. I would make it easier by using probably half the pieces, and then I have it sorted by questions easier and harder, so you can make it also easier by using just the easier questions instead of some of the harder things. You can make it harder by using more pieces and using more intricate questions. And you can also make it more difficult by having them pull out more than one at a time, say 2 or 3 at a time, and then having them come back and stacking them back on top. Okay, so for my second intervention, this is Play-Doh with a board. So what you would kind of do is have the patient, you would show the patient the template here, and they would come over here and they would reach and then pinch off some Play-Doh and stick it inside of the circles here. So if you want to go ahead and do that for me. So what this works on is she has to reach for the Play-Doh, she has to pinch, she can work on her pinching skills. You can use the Play-Doh for numerous things in my kit. Okay. Stayed in the line, so that's good. It works on praxis, it works on eye-hand coordination, it works on using hands at midline. She's kind of crossing midline a little bit right here. Color recognition, pattern recognition as well with the patterns right here. Figure ground, and problem solving, and in-hand manipulation. As you can kind of see when she's coming back, she's manipulating the Play-Doh with her hands. This is a really good hand skill. Okay. Alright, so some ways that you can grade this activity up and down is I've actually included a piece with my kit that has numbers, and each number has a color-coded thing with it. So ones will be blue, 2 will be green, 3 pink, 4 yellow, and 5 orange, and so on and so forth. So you can make it harder that way by having them look at the numbers instead of the colors and taking the colors away. You can grade it down by using less circles, saying just look at the top 2 or these 2 right here, and so on and so forth. You can grade it down by taking away some colors and only using 1 or 2 so that it's a lot easier for the patient. Another way to grade it up is by only showing, say, look at this pattern right here on this row, and then show that for 10 seconds and then take it away. And that will work on memory recall games as well. And yep. Okay, so my next intervention, I have here a large print word search and a Sudoku book. And so what these books would work on is they have to work on targeting, sequencing, they have to work on the pattern recognition of the words, and they have to work on the pattern recognition on the Sudoku. What I purposefully did was I bought the beginner Sudoku, and it goes up to easy to medium, hard, and I think one more, very hard, yes. So it kind of teaches the patient how to play it, and then they can get those mental memory games going. Like I said, this works on targeting, sequencing, pattern recognition, eye-hand coordination. Problem solving is a big thing with my kit because that's what my kit is about, and that's what these really help with. They help with those brain games, and they have to use visual scanning to look for the words and they have to use visual scanning to make sure they haven't used more than one number in the Sudoku. And like she's using right now, she's got both hands at midline working. Okay, so some ways that you can grade this activity. Like I said, I made it kind of easy by starting with the bigger letters, so you can make it innately harder by purchasing smaller letters and having a bigger word bank and a bigger palette to work with. So another thing you can do is also take away the word bank to make it harder and then see how many words that they can find. Or you can give them the word bank back and make it harder by enforcing a time limit and seeing how many they can get. Okay, so I think everybody knows what this thing is. We all made one in class. I decided to redo one and make it more towards a male and having them work on basically a lot of the same skills that the first one did, except I kind of adapted it. So what you would do with the patient is they could use tip to tip to either pull them across, or they can use isolation of the index finger and they can pull them across like how she is working at midline right here with both of her hands. So some of the skills that this one could work on works on isolation of index, like I said. It works on reaching, because she's reaching for each of the individual baseballs. She has to sequence her movements. She has to plan her movements, which is praxis. She has to problem solve on how to get, because what I did is I included a small gap that they have to go through with each of the baseballs. So she's having to problem solve how she's going to get all these baseballs over here to this side with just using her index finger like that. And she has to use visual scanning to keep going back and forth. And so some ways that you can grade this intervention is you can place it on carpet to make it more difficult. See, as here we're on a table, which makes the balls kind of slide very easily with your fingers. You can use less of the beads in here to make it easier, so she has more of an easier time getting them to each side. You can make it harder by enforcing a time limit on this, and then you can also use larger pieces so you can move them fairly easy. Okay, so for my last intervention, this is popsicle stick match. So basically what it is I'm going to show the patient the card and put it in front of them, and they have to pull out and reach out of my colored bag of popsicle sticks here. So I have cards, and I have 5, and they go from easy to more difficult. So this is the easier one, and then the more difficult one is kind of crazy, like this. So what I was going to have her do for this demonstration purpose is just do the more easier one really fast for me. Okay, so can you go ahead and do this? So what she's doing right now, she has to reach, she has to target, she has to plan her motor movements on which color she wants. She has to know the color, she has to know color recognition, she has to know pattern recognition to do this. She has to have sequencing in order to keep looking back and forth and know what comes next. She has to know form constancy, because she has to know what size this is and what size this should be. It should look kind of the same. Figure ground perception, eye-hand coordination, initiation of task, and like she did, ending of the task. And so some ways you can grade it up, like I said earlier, it kind of gets more difficult with each card as you go along. You can grade it down by using less of the colors. I think there's like 5 or 6 different colors in here, so you could use like 2 or 3 instead of all 5. You can grade it down by making even more simpler shapes. If they can't get the most basic shape, you can just do 2, like an X or something. They would still have to know pattern recognition, because they need to know what an X looks like. You can grade it up, like I said, with more difficult shapes, like the more ones I have like here and things. And then you can grade it up by showing them, like I did for my other activity, by showing it to them for like 5 or 10 seconds and then taking it away and having them making a shape with this right colors and the right order. Okay, so I'm just going to show you like a quick way that you can use some of my things in my kit together as a whole. So going back to my board here, what I'm going to have her do is I'm going to have her look at these again, and she's going to do the same activity. And this is just a bigger multi-step activity. And now, after she places that on the cube, she's going to go into the bag of popsicle sticks and find the same color and color coordinate it and stick it in there like that. And Yep, that's just one of the ways that you can use my kit to use different things.